Perfect. I tell you, we waited for her. It's okay, we're getting back online, so we have not gone online yet. Good evening and welcome to the March meeting of the Fauquier County Seac. I don't believe we have any guests tonight, so the first order of business.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And also a motion to approve the February Seac minutes, which you all received via email. Second? Are there any amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. All right, so we're good to go with that. There's no public comment this evening. So our presentation, Ms. Gum is going to present the annual plan. Everybody received in an email, and tonight I handed out the actual plan that goes to the state, the form that she submits. Just to remind everyone, we have a charge as under IDEA and the state special education law is to review the plan before it goes to the school board for approval. We do not approve it. We don't take a vote on it, but we do provide input, suggestions, ask questions, anything that that we want to have happen before it goes to the school board. And then we will, when we're done, Ms. Gum will be able to go to the school board and say that she presented the plan to the SEAC. So that's where we are. I know a few people's questions, which I forwarded to Ms. Gum, and I think she's going to address those. If there are other questions afterwards, or she's going along, that's fine. But hopefully, we got most of it to her beforehand.
So I wanted to start with we're presenting tonight to SEAC. So Monday night, there's a school board meeting. It will be presented in March. We probably will not vote on it Monday night because there's a lot going on. So I have time. I usually make sure I do that. And then they'll vote on it in April. Once they've voted on it in April, then the application, which is what we got today, application will be signed by the superintendent. and submit it the first part of May. So we have time, but we have to make sure that we meet all those deadlines to make it happen. So that's why we do it so early. Fortunately, this year, Seac is prior to the school board meeting, so we're able to do it in the timeline that we're required to do it. So, 2 documents. This is the actual application that comes to each division each school year. We go through the tabs and we flip through the pieces of this. There's pieces in this that are questions the state asks each year. It seems like each year they get a few more tabs and questions for us to answer. It's really asking what you've done in the past, what you see are some barriers in your division. That was kind of new. And then the next piece is, what are you going to do to remove some of those barriers by using your annual plan funding, which is 16 federal funding. So what I do not put in the slideshow are the barriers and things like that. So I'm going to go through the presentation of how we're going to be allotting our money, where it goes, talk a little bit about each of the categories that are expenses. If we get to the end and someone has questions about anything that's in the actual plan, we can talk about that. But the presentation is typically what you're spending your money for. So does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to go through my presentation. I have my slides in case you guys have questions. I can jot them down and then we can either talk about them then or I can get back to you on it, okay? So, start with my piece. So this is our special education federal program grant proposed annual plan for school year 26-27. I'm going to go through the various special education funding sources for each school division. So this is federal, but there are other avenues. So I want to make sure everyone understands what all those funding sources are for special education.
Can I just clarify?
Sure.
The plan, just so everybody understands, the plan that goes to the state only covers funding from the state. So you're sharing with us.
I'm sharing with
all
you
the
what we spend our federal 6B grant on.
Got it.
That is what this application
Okay,
is.
so this isn't the whole. There's some confusion sometimes. This
Expand
is
the whole, but the focus is on what I'm spending.
Got it.
We are spending this money on from 6B.
Because sometimes people look at this and say, "Wow, we don't spend much on special ed." No, this is just the money we get from the federal
And then
government.
when I get to the end, I'll talk about how gracious we are that local gives us, and I'll explain
Great.
what some divisions do with their entire 6B that we're lucky enough that our school division does not require us to do that, and then I'll talk about that as we get into it. Okay. So next slide. This is IDA Part B. This is what we're talking about. This is our federal grant. It says each LEA, including school division, state operated programs, and the Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind in Stanton, is required by state and federal law to submit an annual plan to the Virginia Department of Education for providing special education services to identified children with disabilities residing within the jurisdiction and demonstrate their funding eligibility. Federal funds under 6B are available both for preschool and school age special education programs. So you're going to see a 611 and you're going to see a 619. 11 is school age, 19 is preschool. So you'll see we get through that like that first slide. Okay. So you will see in the actual application itself, it has all these object codes. And when my finance person submits to the state object codes, and she has to very detailed explain which object code it's under and what it was bid for. And then once my person submits it, there's a level less that here in the division have to approve it. Once it gets to our top level, it goes to the state, they review it, and they approve it. The reimbursement comes back to us. So it can take some time. So that's why when you see Mr. President showing us that we're in the red, that's because it takes time for that process to work. Okay. So some of the object codes when we start, 1,000 is personnel, it's our salaries. 2,000 is employee benefits. So we do pay some salaries and benefits that are special education staff out of this funding. 3,000 are purchase services. This is our big one. Services from private or other public contractors, including private transportation and school for the deaf and blind. So if we have a kiddo who has been placed out, this is not our kiddos that go to day placement. That is covered within our budget. This is if we have, for example, Department of Social Services has a child who they either don't have a foster family for, or the child needs a residential setting and they're placed by Department of Social Services. We as a school division are responsible for their education. We're also responsible for their transportation. I can't transport a kiddo who's home in Norfolk to the school 10 miles up the road. So we have to pay for transportation because he is our child. So that's what that covers. We don't have too many of those, but it's very expensive. So unfortunately, we don't have too many, but that's what covers under 3,000. Okay. All right. 4,000 is internal services. Charges from an internal service fund to other activities, elements of the local government. 5,000 are other charges, include expenditures that support the use of programs, telecommunications, utilities, postage, copier. You get the gist of what that is. Okay. You know what's been. 6,000 is material and supplies. So what isn't really used up for salaries and benefits. This one is our big one. This covers anything your programs for your students and anything that is a material and supply. So the definition for that and that would be where it goes. 7,000 is payment to joint operations. This means includes tuition payments to the fiscal agent for operations that are jointly operated by 2 or more local governments. And operations defined by jointly operated as the local government have responsibility of ownership. 8,000 is capital outlay. That's technology, hardware, infrastructure, replacements, those types of things. And then there's a 9 under other uses. And that has to be very specific and approved ahead of time and very detailed so that they understand what that's for. We can't just spend some furniture, computers, diagnostic services, instructional materials, integration, local coordination, related services, outdoor equipment if needed, parent services, program evaluations, salaries, staff development, transition, transportation, but not your basic pupil transportation. It was the transportation as I spoke about. So those are some of the items that are approved. Again.
The transportation, when you talk about basic pupil transportation, if you have a student who's outplaced from the district and they're saying going to Winchester or something, is that still considered pupil? Okay.
Because that was an IEP team decision. And so we place them on a day placement. So we are responsible for their transportation. Got it. Right. So they're considered under the basic.
So this might be like maybe if Transitions had a van that they were taking kids to field trip, or is that still basic?
That's still basic. This is literally back to if another agency places a child,
got it.
Our child, and we have to pay them.
Okay.
All right.
Can I ask a question? Parent services. Give me an example of that.
I'm sorry.
Parent services.
Parent services.
Give me an example.
That's our parent resource center. So if there's anything that's needed out of that, we could use our federal funding to supply that. So say you need a copies made or postage or something like that to send out something.
As you'll soon see, there's not enough money to worry about most of those categories for the federal money. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. State funding not granted to the Office of Special Education. Children placed in private special education schools are funded through an interagency pool which exists under the Children's Services Act to pay for the state's share of the cost of services for children either at risk or they're at out-of-home placement by any local public agency. So we said as a member on the CPMT, and don't ask me, I can't come up with child's
Is this FAP?
CPMT. It is a committee that consists of the judicial system, Department of Social Services, many agencies, even a day placement school has a position on that. So we sat on it as well. So at that point, we go through all of the that DSS and the school division has to pay, but these are our kids, again, what we were talking about with this private transportation. These are our kiddos that are either day placed or placed by Department of Social Services. We still provide their education. So those funds do not channel through our 6B. Those are completely separate and they're channeled through the county, and there's other federal money that matches that, but that is set aside that we spend through our 6B. And then that is isolated only to that. Okay. Just want to make sure you guys know all the sources of work.
Thank you for doing this because this is beyond what the planning.
You have to know the gist of it, right? To know what the plan is. When considering purchases, our office is always looking at student data, including positive and negative trending. It's vital to the pathway of expenses. If something's not working and we haven't had discussion, why are we going to continue? We need to take what that trend looks like and decide we continue with it or we adjust what we're doing. Prioritize expenditures. Sometimes there's a greater need and we have to determine what that value is. Sometimes our equipment starts to become old, right? We gotta figure out how do we phase that. Review both of the above periodically throughout the school year in order to assure appropriate spending. We research the cost before making purchases. So if we're looking to purchase something, even if I have, just for example, if I have a physical therapist that needs something for a piece of equipment, I'm like, don't just give me one, give me a couple, let's talk about it, let's talk about what cost benefit of it is. If it's someone local, they may either donate or charge us lesser rate, but wait, maybe that person doesn't have exactly what we need, and then we have to have that conversation of, is it really about cost at this point, or is it about, those are always conversations. Consider what is the benefit to the students at each person. Okay, so those are all the stakeholder holders for our 6th grants. All right, so here is talking about the ins and outs of the 611. 611, remember, is school age. So the total budget amount for 26-27 is 2.7 million, but that covers school age and preschool. Okay, so I'll dive into those numbers in a moment. For 611, not for preschool, Fauquier County will fund salaries and benefits for 5 special education teachers. That's salaries and benefits, so it's 12, 27 instructional assistants, and 2 special education supervisors for the upcoming school year. FCPS will purchase materials and supplies to cover costs for students with disabilities to access the appropriate curriculum and FAPE. FCPS will purchase materials and supplies needed to create a living skills lab in a school setting. You may see that as a repeat from last year. We could not get it off the ground. There were some things that were occurring that were out of our hands. We have made progress this year, and so we are on the trajectory for that to open in the fall, right, Dean?
Yes.
So sometimes things happen like that. We have to write this so early on. We want something to happen, so we write it in there so the funding is, and then out of control of something, it may slow the process. So it may not happen in that year. And so what happened is this was in 25-26 budget. If we can get things going, we may be using some of that funds for 25-26. But we know we'll probably need some of those funds for 26-27 as we get it open and realize what our stations need. Okay, so sometimes you'll see overlaps for those reasons. FCPS will utilize contract services to FCPS will provide professional development for special education teachers at all levels for reading at a tier 3 level. FCPS will purchase materials needed for the teachers and students requiring this level of support. That actually happens this school year to all levels, and we will continue that, and that's a continued cost. And so this is only tier 3. Tier 3 is special, only be used for special education, so we cannot cover a tier 1 or tier 2. And that's why we have to identify it that it is tier 3.
With all the turnover, how often do you anticipate you're going to have to do the trainings? Are you planning to just do it as new come on, or is it like a quarterly?
We have to, because, I could have 2 or 3 middle school teachers who got trained this beginning of the school year to implement the program that we're using. They could either transfer within to another grade level, or they leave. We got to bring 2 more in. Might just happen to be the 2 that we trained, right? So we can't lose our fidelity with what's going to happen with it. We've already purchased the program, so we're going to have to train them. So that's a continuing thing that we have to make sure.
Just qualified to do that training.
We do not. We use the company itself. So our supervisors, if it's at their grade level, they know it. But right now, we're not using any in-house. We're using it outside as the company itself. And they do the training, but also when we have questions, we can go to them. They have a support line that's available at certain times, so people can tap into that. So it's not just, here you go, we'll talk to you later. So,
Does the school fund training opportunities for non-tier 3? Obviously, this is
yes,
what the
that
grant
is
is
on the Department of Instruction side.
Okay.
Yes, those fall under that. Yep. All right. FCPS will utilize contracted services to cover costs for contracted related service providers, transportation for specific day placement students. FCPS will access other services for rental fees for copiers, postage machines, and the SNED office. We'll also cover the cost of to those. my supervisors will be going all but one, and we will then bring all that information back and share it with the pieces that we should be. So we're not just going over there, getting the information, purposes to bring it back because we want to utilize it in our division. So what we may do is we may go for a conference for a year. Next year, we may stay at the state level. We'll just bounce those back and forth. But we have not been to national in a very long time. We actually leave Tuesday. We're super excited to go and hear all that is said at a national conference. It's actually CEC,
Great. Where is it?
Utah.
I noticed in the plan, it says you're not going for any out of state travel. So you may,
Yeah, preschool.
oh, okay. Is there a line for that in the other one?
Two sections, but I'll go back and double check.
Yeah, I may have read it in preschool, but because you said national conference and then I read that and I was like, oh, so, okay.
And then we're also looking to purchase some more iPads. We try to do that each year, keep our supply up where it needs to be.
What was the previous budget? What was the previous budget?
2.6.
2.6.
Can you talk a little bit about how that funding works and how it went up a little bit this year from the state and federal level without getting into all weird Virginia funding formula?
So each year that I've been in the position, I think when I started 2 years ago, it was like 2.4, and that number does not calculate from us. We don't make that request. That is a number that when they send me the sheet for the annual plan, it goes into there. So it is generated from the state and it's based on our population.
It's a calculation of how rich your county is.
Many different
But that's basically what it's
revenues and what your county has.
Property
And so
values, all kinds of
Yes,
stuff.
each division has that given to them by the state. It's not that we ask for it. It's not that we try to project something. So it's given, and then that's where
Fauquier County's profile got better for us for funding this year. So that means we get some more money from the state just because of the demographics of our county, nothing about the school division.
And let me also explain, when we get that money, it is not for an explosive amount of funding that's needed. And so you want to make sure you always have that. So you don't ever want to be getting close on that. We will time that we make a submit to the state. When we go in and start and the approvers approving it, when I go in, I copy mine, I date it, and then it tells me exactly how much money we have left on that grant. So it's, you want to keep a close eye on that, but you have 2 years to spend it.
So what is the carryover? I mean, I imagine you don't spend every nickel.
You have to.
You have, yeah.
Yes, you
Use
have
it
to.
or
You have
lose
2
it.
years to spend it.
2 years to spend if they grant 2.6 million and you got 2 years to spend every bit of it.
Yeah, and
So-
if you do not,
You
it
lose it.
goes back to them. So you
Uh-huh.
have to be very careful. That's why I have a finance person. I'm not finance person.
Mhm.
And she is very on top of that. They do allow something that's called a set aside. And so at the end, you have an additional 3 months to spend that set aside. So you'll know what that set aside is
Mm.
based on how much you spent. And then technically you would have from July 1 to June 30, 2 school years out. But then if you still have money that they call set aside, you have until September to actually get rid of all of that money. But you don't want to, that's why you're spending it like a year and a half out. You don't
Right.
ever want to get to a point
But-
where you have not spent.
But you're getting funding every year, but it's the funding you get every year, you get 2 years to spend the funding.
That is
But
correct.
so every year there's new funding coming in.
Yes.
So you have to separate from the current.
Yes, when she goes in to make a remittance, you have to state which,
Go into next year's grant, but it's the same positions presumably, right?
and HR, finance, and I supervise and bias the teacher position numbers so that we know exactly what's coming out of it each time. The deduction was made each month by payroll to us, my person sends to it. But yes, a lot of this money goes to salaries and benefits. And that's what I was going to state. There are a lot of divisions in this state. The school board requires them to spend all of that on their salaries and benefits. And the only money they get is their local. Our division, unfortunately, does not do that. We split it to help cover those costs. So I not only get to spend what's left of this, we're kind and gracious enough to have our local also give us money. So I feel that we have what we need. We just have to be careful with spending. It doesn't mean that you get to be fruitful with it. You need to be careful because you never know what you're going to have to spend.
Well, as you pointed out.
A child move in tomorrow who has all these pieces. And guess what? If I don't have the money, and then I have to go ask the local for it, they're going to be questioning where my money is, right? So you've got to be able to be careful.
I remember in last year's budget, we added, I forget how much it was, but there was a significant pot that they created just for that, so that you would have a little bit of flexibility because you don't know.
Budget this year.
Is it this, that one's gotten bigger? That's
So these 5 special education teachers, that's just for not preschool. That's
No, sir, this is school age. I'm getting to preschool.
and it's a small number. I mean, it's only
The others, considering how many we have in the county or how many positions we have.
roughly how many positions do you have compared to this number? What percentage?
It's about 200 total.
So this is an eighth
This
of.
is a drop in the hat. But
right.
we pay those.
The county pays the rest.
County budget pays the rest of them.
How did you decide which 5 positions you pay out of?
Ones that are going to stay.
Well, I'll tell you,
I mean-
teacher positions were pretty easy because there's only 5, but there were 27 IAs. So what I had to figure out when I came in, you can't, I'll call the word double dip. You cannot double dip. We file an application for SISNA, students with intensive needs. What you cannot do is have a teacher or an IA who is going to be on the SISNA application, because I have to use their salaries down to the hour for children. It has to be divided, and it's all these fun numbers. I can't have them on 611 because you can't get for them twice. So I have to make sure that those 27 IA positions and those 5 teacher positions are not those that work with our intensive needs students.
Is it still that students with intellectual disabilities can't receive that funding? Is that still a state thing?
What?
The Cessna,
There's 5 categories of intensive needs that children can have.
but it doesn't include intellectual disabilities yet, does it? It does now?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure?
The MD and MD.
This isn't really related. Let's talk about it. Yeah, because it was a question I had from the new state Seac person, and so yeah, because it was okay. No, that's all right.
All right, we're gonna slide on. This is 619, so this is preschool. Preschool is a lot less, but it comes out of that 2.7. So you're gonna take the 225 out of the 2.7. It's not a whole lot of money, but that entire amount goes towards the salaries and benefits of our preschool supervisor. That's the easiest way to. And then there is other money for preschool. There's preschool initiative. There's all kinds of different funding sources that allows us, based on the regulations, of what we can spend those on. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about proportionate set-aside funds. So proportionate set-aside funds are required by the state. They also give you these numbers in here. I did not make those up or request those. So what that means, there's a set-aside for 611, there's a set-aside for 619. The school division, this money is for children who reside in our division, that are a student with a disability. However, they are not educated in our school. They're either homeschooled or they're private school, but they're children with a disability. So a certain amount of money has to be set aside to support what they need. The school division can decide what that's going to look like. So our best bang for our buck, and it has been, and we will probably continue unless there's a different route of some sort. We have more students who are not educated, that are in private or homeschool with speech. So we use that funding for 611 and for 619 to fund our speech, either teacher or contractor, to provide them their speech services. So both of those, let's say 611 is the 64,000 and preschool is 7,400. We use those to pay. Right now it is a contract speech person. That doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. It just means there's a rare shortage of speech pathologists, but that's what the money is used for.
So does that mean they're not served at the schools anymore? Because I know several years ago, students served in the schools, I think, or was that just preschoolers?
That's just preschoolers.
Got it.
If you're homeschool or you're private school, we were sending someone to the schools, and we lost that person, even though she was contract, she was here. Right now, I do not have anyone here. She is virtual, and she taps into them either at home, at their private school, or however that works amongst the parent, the school, and the provider. Okay. So I know other divisions get people that come to these meetings and want to know what we do. It is a decision from the LEA, and this is what we decided is the best for our students at this time.
And it's only $64,000.
What contractors cost, you would know that.
That's what-
Well, I mean, when you're talking about where you're going to
Contractors for
spend
speech
something and it's
costs a
the equivalent of somebody's salary, then
And you have to think salaries and benefits, or a contractor almost equals.
Do we know the number of students we serve with an ISP?
I can't tell off the top of my head. She could run a report later and tell you, but
I'm just
I don't
curious.
have
I'm
it.
just curious.
Yeah,
that'd be a good number to have.
I don't know
Preschool
what it is.
and school age.
Yeah, I don't even want to say because I'm afraid I'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know if that number's growing. So if we could look at maybe
Growing, I would.
like comparing the previous years.
say Small.
Small growth. Okay.
Okay.
And then I don't think you mentioned it, but on the last slide, the preschool piece is mileage because we have visiting teachers that run around.
Yep, so the 7,400, we have some preschool teachers, ECSE teachers, who will go out to the home and to the student to see the student. And so in the past, they had never gotten mileage for that, so we decided that was a good use of funds to make sure that they got mileage for that.
Are all 2-year-olds still served in their
By our
homes?
one person in their home, yes, by the time they're 3, they are then able to come into the school. Least restricted, especially for preschool, is home, certainly for a 2-year-old, right? So that's what we saw. But that's the end of my presentation. I hope it gave you a format of what the annual plan is and then all the other pieces that is covered for funds for special education. Unless you have questions in regard to the application itself, then I'm done with my.
What is the total population of students with IEPs? What's the trend there? School age? K-12?
Let's talk about that for a second. So, Buckeye County Public Schools enrollment, general enrollment is down, and has trended that way, other than to say since COVID. More and more families are choosing homeschool, private school, or whatever. However, our special education population is not down. So we are sitting at 10, I don't know, 3, something like that, over 10,000 total enrollment. However, when those families were starting to leave us and our enrollment started to drop, those families that were leaving us were not students with disabilities. So back in the day, we were sitting at about 12 before COVID, 12% of the population. As we came through COVID, we were sitting at about 15. Right now, we're sitting at 18, which is way higher than where it should be. The federal government did move it to a band of about 15, so we're still way higher than we need to be. So that's problematic funding wise, that's problematic with trying to make sure we're doing what we need. And then it's also problematic that our numbers are way higher than they should be. So we're having to be careful in making sure we're exactly following eligibility, the process, using the guidance documents from the state to assure that we are in fact finding children who need to be eligible for special education. So 1,800 is what we're sitting at.
I would-
1,800. I thought you meant 18%. I just,
We
okay.
are at
That
18.
And 18.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's 10,000. You're right.
So I would encourage you to add that piece to the barrier. I think it's in terms of like how meeting that need equitably, especially with the turnover, it's just like a multiplier because you have that turnover and you have more students, and these are the students who are the most sensitive to changes in their routine. So now you have behavior things, you have all these things happening. Right. And I think that's important. And then also just in that very first section of the very first paragraph where you say staff supporting students with disabilities find the challenging demands of state standards, I would add changing state standards because that's really the Literacy Act changes. And now we do have new VSOLs for English. I learned because that was an issue for a year where we didn't have that. But a lot of the training that's going on directly relates to new standards, and we're going to be all over that in math again too. So I think that's important.
When the state changes those initiatives, they go out, right? They go to the Department of Instruction, but then you have to figure out how do they impact us.
And they impact you in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And we just, that was a 2-3 year long process, and now you get to do it all over again with a whole different cast of characters.
What the positive came out of that was our Office of Department of Instruction had really started to work.
Talk to
It's
each
not an option. We have to. It should have already been, but right now, it's, you have to. There's no way to get through this. But, they make us well aware of where we are and what the federal guidelines are.
So what are you oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, what are you attributing to the rise?
We had a decrease in enrollment. Those that decreased and left us were not students with
Yeah,
disabilities.
it just
Yeah.
They
skews your percentages.
So you're not,
skewed our percentage.
okay.
There's
Population, but you keep the
Right,
same number
certainly.
of students with disabilities, your percentage increases.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how does that translate into students though? I mean, how many actual student population on the rise, or is just a percentage?
No, it's just
student population enrollment here in Parker County
Is going
I know
down.
overall. I'm just talking about special ed.
It's not changing.
It keeps going up.
Oh.
Well,
And
that,
I will tell you.
So,
right.
We get transfer students in often, right? And I'm spending the time almost, it's a student with a disability.
so it is going up. It is not
The number of
staying,
No, it is
students with
not.
disabilities is going up.
Yeah.
Total
Right.
student
Right.
population is going
is
up.
going down.
Right.
So it's
It's
twofold.
The number and the percent are going up.
Right.
And the bottom line is, if a kid's eligible for special education services, you got to find them eligible.
Yep.
So the 15% national number is all lovely and good, but
Yeah, but the national
right,
numbers are.
that's different than the 1% and 2%, like
Well,
with
and that's what I
like
was
with the
going to ask.
VAP. So
How does that work when
um,
you have more?
looking well,
It doesn't quite work.
Well,
but
they changed the criteria, which is very in depth. And
they
there's a whole
clarified the
Well,
criteria.
with the whole-
process.
yeah.
So
With the back.
many of our students, yes.
Exactly.
Students
That was
do
that
not
was the start of it,
qualify for
right?
the back.
Well, so,
Right.
but does, so that 1% or 2%
We
or
may
is
not
no
get all the
longer,
way
it's
to-
No, it's
just,
still there.
oh, it's still there plus, so where are we in relation to that? Because
We're not
Even-
as far.
even
We're
with
not
the
as
new-
far over as we were. We were 2, and
Right.
now we're
Right.
2.
Tool that we
Well-
now are required to.
And the smaller the division, again, law of average, like your.
I'd also be
statistical-
curious to know on that 18%, 1,800, what the ratio, more LD kids that went up, or was it in that proportionally, which groups of students,
I don't have specifics.
Yeah,
I can
right.
tell you where- I can
Yeah.
tell you where the rise is.
where-
Yeah.
Autism.
Yeah.
Autism.
Absolutely. That's,
Well,
that's
okay.
a national.
Okay,
that's
but
national
that's-
though.
Exactly.
That's
But
what
one of the
we're-
questions is, how do we
Of course.
compare to the national?
And it's going to continue
I
to
guess-
rise.
Absolutely.
Right. That's not
But
going to.
since there's such a wide range of needs with kids with autism, I guess my point is it students with high needs or student?
Flat.
ID is pretty flat and no downward, which is interesting because
That is
several years
interesting.
ago it was
Yeah.
rise.
Okay.
MD usually stabilizes itself. You have a upward trend and down. Right now we have several preschool that we haven't had in a long, long time. It kind of comes in waves, but autism is just as national.
Who puts this proposal together? This when you got this 611. Who puts that together? You do. So if you know the trends are going up, especially in autism, is what's driving it, then I mean certainly the state is not unaware of that either, because that's a national trend. So I mean, are you? I guess.
The total
Are you-
amount doesn't get to change.
Well,
The total
Yeah,
amount's
but this-
dictated by the state.
what you submit, you get to submit.
I submit the plan.
How
They
you're
tell
gonna
me
use
How
about
you're
it.
gonna
Then,
spend
then
it.
they translate it to dollars.
You're not-
No,
No,
she's
they give
given
the
a dollar
dollars
total
first.
and she has to
She
figure out
has-
how to spend it.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to request a
That's
certain
the
amount.
plan. The plan is for how you're going to spend that money that they tell you.
Well, I'm
get
just wondering
X.
how they get to this 2.7 million.
That has to do with this calculation,
It's a formula.
the state formula
Because
for
if
how
you
much
got-
each county gets. It does. It's not based on anything about the students. It's based on your right. It's based on your population and how they calculate the
Not-
Yeah, why
not
would
the
it-
affluence
numbers
of your
people.
county.
And it's just a portion of the funds
And
that
ours
they're
went down
utilizing for
No, I
that.
get
correct?
this
that.
year. So
Okay.
Fauquier County as a whole, not Fauquier County schools. Fauquier County is now considered a little bit less wealthy than it was, but because of our unusual property value situation where we have $14 million homes and, it's, we tend to really kind of get disadvantaged by that. We're not like Loudon where they've got tons and tons of houses and everybody's roughly the same. Fauquier County has
Quite a
a
variety.
small amount of very, very, very high value properties. And so that calculation, that's a debate at the state level about funding in general for everything, not just school. That's not just for schools. That's for every, that's for everything. So.
All right.
Okay.
That's what I have. Then we'll go Monday night to work.
Are there any other just suggestions, comments, questions? Okay. Thank you. Actually, I wanted to just mention really quickly, the piece about the training for reading, that's something that the Seac, just for those of you who haven't been on the Seac for very long, that's something the Seac has been working toward for a long time. There didn't used to be people at the middle, and this was before the Virginia Literacy Act, but there didn't used to be people in school who knew how to teach someone how to read. Reading instruction was all about comprehension and skills at that level. But if you have a student who gets to high school and can now read vowels and needs to move on to their vowel blends, a few years ago, the standard response was, well, they've probably reached their plateau. So we'll do other accommodations. Right?
Read
And the courts have ruled on that too, like that's not a viable option. But I think to your credit, you've been ahead of that. That's just not right. You got to teach kids how to read if they can learn how to read. I mean, it takes them until they're 22 years old and they're walking out the door. We're going to be behind, and we need to teach them with age appropriate materials modified to their level. So kudos to you making that a priority. All right, now the inclusion piece, and I sent that out to the group, but if you could just give us a quick update on your inclusion plan and kind of what's going on with that. I did copy to everybody. Everybody has just the questionnaire, the survey. So
Let me do this first. Okay, so I made it just everything on my desk, just
great.
that way. This is the easiest way I knew to do it, right?
Thank you.
Is to make it as a timeline. Timelines sometimes don't always happen the way you want them to for whatever unforeseen reason. You have to take a back step, you have to figure it out and move again, right? So this is where we are. So we'll let some of you know how this came about a little bit. Me knew coming in, the state asked me for a copy of my inclusion plan, and I went, what are you talking about? Long story short of it, there was a lot of miscommunication, maybe my misunderstanding, but I'm pretty sure that it was not communicated well to me. They kept saying, you have to have your inclusion plan, your inclusion plan. No one really said the inclusion plan was a survey. Directors, cohort of new directors, they're like, good plan. I'm like, the plan, and they're like, it's just a survey. I'm like,
Nice.
oh, okay. Also, can I share it?
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, that's how it came about. What I learned later in that cohort was they were going to be asking everyone to do it later. And I'm like, sure, already got it done, yay me, right? So we were going to push it out. Things got a little slower based on various reasons. So I'm going to show you where we have gone from the time I thought we were supposed to have one to where we were beginning to discover. So that's kind of how it worked. It wasn't quite what I thought it was.
Also, I think the state has backed off on some timelines because they've realized how many divisions are so far behind on this
I think
whole.
we're the only one has the division-wide plan.
Yeah.
Well, and on like, you can't ask schools to do something if they don't even know what the word inclusion means. You know, if your principal doesn't know that, they can't really share a
So that was
meeting.
summer 2024. So we created a division-wide inclusion plan to inform and educate school administration only at that point, right? In order for the division to move towards a more inclusive model for students. The division-wide inclusion plan was created based on the VDOE inclusion indicators, and it includes vocabulary and training modules that were referenced to us by the state. So we put those pieces in, and that's where we were summer of 2024.
And that training, the SEAC got that training. If anybody wants to look at that training, I'd be glad to send you the video and all of that stuff. We did that 2 years ago.
Yep. So school year 24-25, last school year, we're gonna move forward, right? FCPS began sharing vocabulary and having conversations between school administration and the special education office. And that's when we went, we need to put the brakes on.
Sharing vocabulary is the most creative way of.
You know, The inclusion plan was not pushed to the schools as quickly as anticipated due to varying factors. However, we will continue to revamp, figure out what to do. Special Education Office had many discussions to formulate the implementation of this model of inclusion. That was all last school year, trying to just figure it out, trying to talk about this vocabulary, trying to figure out where our people were, what we were seeing when we went into the classroom, things like that. It was time last summer. We said, okay, here we go. So we partnered with TTAC, which is a state-funded at our school, colleges. So ours is George Mason. We had them speak with our special education teachers at all levels to discuss specially designed instruction. Key point, right? And targeted one school for supporting both gen ed and special education teachers. This was initiated at our August SPED all-day training that we do. We had a presenter in the morning, and then once that was done for the hour and a half we had, we broke into sessions. We had breakout sessions that we did. And then if you were elementary, you went to your TTAC training for specially designed instruction, and then it flipped the afternoon, you came to us, and the other group went. So that was our push, beginning of the school year. Here we go. We're moving forward, right? So then this school year, this is where we have taken off. This is what we had wanted to do a year ago, but I feel we're moving. Each month, the Special Education Office discusses monthly indicators and how this information will be presented to the building administration. So remember, there are 10 indicators from the see down those indicators. Where do we go with these? So what we talked about in our weekly meetings, my office was, where are we? What are we going to do? We wanted to make sure it was going out uniformly to all, and those discussions were had. And then we were coming back to our office to revamp. Okay, what do we need to do? What are we going to do our topic for next month? Do we need to move forward? Do we need to backtrack? Where do we go with things? So,
And these are inclusion indicators, not education.
Inclusion indicators that came from the state. So our goal, and we are going to hit it, we just had a meeting last week. So the goal is to have all indicators presented by the end of the school year. We are doing 7 and 8 now. We will do 9 and 10. The goal is we will be done in May, the first of our final, and then we'll move forward from there. So we will have all the indicators pushed out to the.
When you say building administration, like what does that look like? Is that the principal and assistant principal in a room?
It's on the school level. So you have, like at the high school level, you have a SPED administrator. It could be just that person. It could be all 4 of those people. It depends. The building gets to decide what that looks like. That's up to them, but they're going to be responsible.
Okay.
Our supervisor at that school is having those meetings. So we're taking it from our knowledge and we're pushing it to them.
Can we clarify something though? The SPED lead, what's it called? What's the title at a high school?
Department chair.
The department chair is not an administrator.
No, it is not the department chair. It is the admin.
Okay.
There's a-
So the
there's a lead
AP
assistant
who's
principal
responsible. Got it.
Oversees. at
Understand.
that school. That's who we're talking about.
I understand.
The department chair can be a part of it.
But that's not
That is
the
not
only
what
person.
we're
That's what I thought you were
talking
saying
about.
when it was the one person. I was like,
They are not admin.
got it.
Okay.
How do you then monitor that they are following through properly?
We haven't gotten the
We're not to that
yet.
point.
We're not
Just
to that
Giving them knowledge
Gotcha.
of these indicators and what that looks like, asking for feedback and having those discussions. So from that,
Okay.
it guides our office to know what are we doing next. That's what we had hoped to do last year. We weren't there, so we had to backtrack and that's where we are. So the 3-year inclusion survey was completed and requested by DDOE. The other tools that were suggested by DDOE were utilized as well. So when they sent us the survey, that you have a copy of, they sent other tools for us to use, point sheets for us to use, conversations for us to use. There's also a data sheet that is a lot of information that I needed from various departments. Us, put all that information in. They now have all of that. We'll be sending it out now so that when they make their next step, they have all this data. They don't have to go find it. We did it for them to be able to move forward.
So just to be clear, like this was created by a state law, and the intent was the perfect world was that every school would have a ground up inclusion planning process where they would self-assess how well they're doing on inclusion on these indicators. And then they'll make a plan. And then that information again, in perfect world, comes up to the special education department. And at that point, Ms. Gumb's staff gets involved and starts into, more aggregate data.
Yep.
The problem is we have all these administrators who don't even know what the words are in the 10 indicators.
But we're gonna get there. We're
But that's why, so that's why there's this, because I was a little freaking out a little bit about this myself. So it was like, no, this is supposed to be bottom up process, not a top down. And Ms. Gum and I have had a few conversations.
It's gonna fall apart if we do that.
But now talking about like so this is a much bigger education process than it initially was envisioned by the state. And so I'm guessing the timelines and the deadlines and what they're actually asking for, like this survey is not initially what the state was asking for. So if you go back to materials a couple of years, it doesn't match up with what they said would be happening. But probably
I'm
that
kind of glad that I misunderstood what they said and created it.
based on the,
We wouldn't
yeah.
be there either had I not started putting pieces together and my team helped me to know what
Right.
it looked like.
And initially there shouldn't have been until there were all the school level plans, but
But there wasn't a school level.
that wasn't going to happen.
So how are we gonna make them do something if I don't
Right.
know that they know how to do it, right? So let's model it. We're gonna do it at our level because we know how to do it. We're gonna model it from there down. And then once they've got it, then we can build it back up in our office and help support it that way. But it's impossible to send it to them, knowing that they don't have the tools to do it. That would be just a waste of energy. I think that's what from in the past, so why are we gonna recreate, right?
Right.
Right. So they have to share with you guys, schools will be tasked now at the end of this school year with creating an inclusion team by the end of the school year. They're already being told that. We're already starting those discussions, that when the school year ends, you should have your team. Now, let me give you what's timeline moving forward. So this summer and beyond, Special Education Office will have a training over the summer to support administration with creating an inclusion plan for their school. The information gained will then be shared with the school team. So our office is going to train the administration over the summer. It's gonna be the building administration's duty to then train their team to then create their plan for the upcoming school year. So the anticipation is have that plan, even if it's in draft form, they will have that plan when school year starts. So we're giving it to you early. You've got your team. You're going to go back and do your homework with your teams, and you're going to create this.
Okay, Seac members, every team's got to have a gen ed teacher, a special ed teacher, at least one of these, right? Is that
No,
next
it's not,
slide?
but
Okay.
I was going to go with that.
A parent, right? Related service provider and an admin.
Administrator. I would like to have no more than 6. So that's 5 that you have to have. You can pick if you want something else, or it could be both administrators. More than 6,
Related service provider.
more than 6, you start getting some, too big of a group, right? You got to have some moving forward. So that is where the plan is for the summer.
Is there any reason why, like a SEAC member who is aware of this and familiar with it, shouldn't reach out to an admin and just say, hey, I know I'd be interested in
Up to you.
being involved?
Sure. Up to you guys. But they will know this if they don't already, then their building just hasn't gotten on my supervisor's list,
Okay.
but they're moving through. So I have 4 supervisors who move through the schools. Each one of them have their group, their bands. And so we talk every Friday morning. It's very rare that we don't talk on Friday morning about all kinds of things.
How are the schools finding the parents to be included in this?
It's up to the school.
That's up to the school. I can't
Okay.
dictate. It needs to be a parent and a student with a disability within that school. For the upcoming school.
But it wouldn't necessarily, it could be any parent with any disability. So it would be good to have an idea of what's going on, kind of having an idea of what's going on out there without causing some big kerfuffle.
All right, the division is discussing with administration the importance of conversations and IEPs, on IEP meetings, around the location of service minutes. Okay, that's where it starts, right? We gotta start with the IEP, you gotta start with these conversations. I'm not telling you that you're gonna dictate something. What I'm saying is you need to have an explicit conversation, help parents understand what the inclusion plan is, what that means, what that looks like for their child. I'm not saying that you have to push a parent, but they need to have the knowledge, right? Also, our indicator 5 is pushing inclusive practices. We have not hit that indicator, and we know why, right? But that indicator gives you the information for how many students, 80% or more in special gen ed, and those that are 40% or more in gen ed, and then you have the window in the middle. They only look to the 2 far ends. Now we know why we don't have to get into it. So this is twofold. We have to do it. We should be doing it. And we have an indicator that measures it for us. So we need to be making sure that we're having these. So right now, it will not be embedded in your school-wide plan, but as we work with Department of Instruction, the goal will be, well, that plan will be embedded, and will all be inclusive, even in the plan. And that's where we are.
Questions? Does learn anything or gets plugged in or anything in this process at individual schools, I'd be interested in kind of gathering that information from the parent perspective, so that we can share that with you and hopefully be helpful in this process. Because at this point, the only parent input is this committee, really, in terms of that. So, all right. Thank you very much. 7:03. All right, we've got a lot going on. Reports. My only big thing for the report is first thing, talk about that in a second. And then in April, this is a big deal. We need to have a date change. This is technically a subcommittee meeting, but all members are invited to participate. This is a meeting where we're going to draft the annual report. That meeting was scheduled for the first Thursday, which happens to be right in the middle of the Holy Thursday Mass at St. John's, the only Catholic church in Fauquier County. So we're going to move it to the 17th because the week after that is spring break. Is there anybody who already knows that? Sorry?
The 6th to the 11th.
16th. No? What?
Spring break is the week before. Spring break is very early this year.
6th to the 11th, right?
Yeah.
I almost said something too because I thought it was.
Okay.
So what's
spring
the
break
current-
is the week after Easter.
The 6th or the.
Right.
6th
6th
to the 10th.
Right. So we're meeting on the Thursday. This-
No,
I-
no.
What?
Oh, to the change?
The
So
new date
was
is the 16th.
Okay.
I said
You
17th.
said all that right. What you said was.
Spring break is the week after.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Spring break is the week after we would have met. I said it wrong.
Yeah.
It's after in my brain. I was talking about the week we were supposed to meet.
Gotcha.
So spring break is in the middle. We can't meet the week.
We can't meet on the 9th. Is
We
what you
can't
said?
meet the 9th because it's during spring
Yeah.
break.
Got it.
So we're doing one further. Just so you're wondering,
Oh,
in case
okay.
you're wondering why we're skipping a week, it's
So
because that's spring break.
April 7th.
Okay.
April 6th.
So the 16th, it's a Thursday. We'll be here. That will not be live streamed because it's a subcommittee meeting. I need two things from folks. So that means we won't meet again for 6 weeks after tonight. I need two things from people. If you can work on these and send me anything you have suggestions on. One is priorities for next year. I've already gotten a lot of input, but anything you want to add. And the second is policy recommendations. We do a piece on policy recommendations. That's a summary at the end. Our goal is to also have the chart and have that be something that the policy committee can use as a reference for anything that the Seac has already done. So this is really more like priority recommendations for the report. In addition to that, we also need to update the chart because we haven't updated it since last summer and there were several policy changes over the course of this year and especially for the legislative updates. So are there maybe one or two people who would be willing to help me out in the next 6 weeks with going through those policies, doing like what we did at the committee over the summer, so that the policy, any policy that's changed, looking at that to see if there's anything that needs to go in the chart. Molly.
Yeah, I can help with that.
Okay. I'll be in touch with you all and we'll just I'll farm stuff out and that way we're not starting from scratch at 6 p.m. in April. Thank you. That's all I have.
My notes, we have job fair Saturday. I will be there with all my supervisors. I'll be in charge today, make sure we have things and see what's up. Hopefully, this is bed or related service or something, right?
Where is that?
I already shared my inclusion timeline with you guys. There will be a textbook adoption for high school aligned curriculum students. It runs us 3-year courses just like all the others. We did elementary and now it's high school. And so we are looking into some new learning systems, ULS. There's been some change of hands in that. And so we are looking for other programs so that we can have input from parents and staff to figure out what we want to buy, what we want to propose to buy for next year. kind of caught up on us quickly, so we're gonna have to move fast to make it happen. One of my supervisors who oversees the programs is working on that.
Are the books put on display somewhere for
These are
parents?
usually not books, these are for students who are on the Alliance curriculum, and it's usually, it's a web-based, so we will have tools to be able to use some of that.
Is part of the discussion ways to draw connections with what's going on in general education classrooms?
We are trying to figure out
Inclusion,
if
'cause-
that exists anywhere
Well,
with programs, like how they are embedding that, so.
let's have some resources for that.
Yeah,
Because things like
got a couple, but
for literature, making sure that we're using some of the same books with highly modified.
Yeah.
And there's a process for doing that. And that would be my one big, yeah.
So I talked about the learning plan for Monday night. I talked about the learning lab skills that we have at Buckner High School that was supposed to start this year. What we have done this year, though, is updated the room for maintenance. Thank you. Now we're looking that we can start getting the supplies we need, whether they be donations or reduced costs or things like that. So that's why it can start coming out of the 25-26 annual plan. And then as we move in, if we still need things, it's in the next budget, but our goal is to have that open and it will be like a field trip experience. The other schools will sign up for it, their teachers will come with them and they'll access the learning lab. There will be a kitchen, there will be a bedroom for them to make the bed, there will be the washer and dryer to sort, and they will have the experience of having that as a field trip within a school.
Middle and high school level
It
or?
would be middle and high school.
Okay. If possible, if the timing works, I would love to schedule a special Seac meeting at the end of the summer before kids, or not the end of summer, end of the summer break, to go tour. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Spar, successful event.
Thank you. Like everybody said, we had the youth resource fair last weekend. I think it went pretty well. There's some follow-up from Ms. Caroline, or sit down in a couple weeks, debrief, go to the volunteers. We get suggestions on improvements. People give us, and then, on my side, how to attract more parents. Other than that, I think it went well.
Do you have an idea what your numbers were compared to last year?
I want to say she said 235.
And do you remember what it was last year?
270.
Oh, so it's down.
It was a very nice day. First nice day we've had.
First nice one in a
Yes.
long time. There was also,
I don't know if that hurt.
I'll mention our battle
Same
of,
day.
it was the same day as the regional spelling bee and the Battle of the Books, big middle schools from all over the region competition. I know it's hard to miss stuff, but it seemed like that particular day had a lot going on.
I want to say that we saw a lot more people coming down to the disability fair from the last time. I don't know.
So you had more at your table than last.
We had more coming into that room because it's kind of at the very end, and a lot of people. The balloon guy on a lot more people to see that area and go in there, but he was fantastic, and that was really great. But we did see more.
He was in the
coming
hallway
there.
last
You
year.
had more at your table.
So getting those folks integrated.
Yeah.
Good.
But other than that, overall, I had no complaints. I enjoyed it.
Great. Is there any piece, I guess my question for next year would be, is there any piece of those resources? I mean, there's not really like a presentation or anything, but pieces of that could be like an online resource. So if somebody couldn't go, maybe there's, a website with links to all the people who exhibited or
There's a link
things
to
like
all
that.
websites. Kristen has a little flyer that has her organizations broken up into a couple different groups, and then my organizations, and you just click on it, it takes you right to it.
Do we have that on? Is there a
Hyperlink resource.
PRC page?
Yes.
Okay. Is it there? Is it there?
Yes.
Okay. Whole business. Youth Resources Fair at the Seac Table Report. Annie, you said you had somebody come up to you and ask you.
We did.
This is a transition thing.
Yeah, well, a transition specialist that could possibly come in to talk to families throughout each school, including elementary, middle, and high school, to encourage parents to understand, kind of plan forward, plan for those transitional changes. because she said at this point they kind of come in just at the very end, right before, and it's a lot of work and a lot of people aren't prepared. And so that was a suggestion that we had just for additional planning there.
All right. Disability Awareness Month activities. I see that the winners of the poster contest were posted in the newsletter this
I saw
evening.
that too. Those are cool.
Which is exciting. And it was funny because it was the 4th grade at Greenville won for the hands, the sign language hands. And my daughter Lucy was in my driver, my designated driver, looked over and she said, I remember in 4th grade doing an assignment where we had to draw our hands. So Ms. Hostetter turned that into them making the poster, and each kid made a letter. So, because I was like, how's that an elementary school poster? And Lucy immediately recognized the assignment. So that was a really neat way to incorporate that.
It really was.
Disability awareness resource document. Oh, that's our online resource document. I wonder what that was. I was looking at on our website now and are we going to be able to put that? Is there a way that we can put that resource document up? I think I emailed you about that on the day I sent you like 30,000 emails. But I'm wondering if we could have it kind of highlighted up higher. It's under quick links, but people aren't finding it. Like, I'm wondering if we could put a header somewhere on the page, if there's room to put the disability awareness resource document, because that we update it each year, but it's useful all year long. So, and now would be the time to do that. Okay. Exemplary service awards.
Yeah, so thanks to my subcommittee who met to look through. We had 18 nominations, which was, I think, really awesome for our first year. And they did come from a wide variety of schools, positions. We had elementary, middle, and high school. So we were very excited. The quality of the nominations that we got were really high too. I definitely took some work to parse through them and really look at the rubric that had been created. And so we did have 2 nominations. We have a teacher and an IA who will both be receiving their recognition awards at the school board meeting. So all of that has been sent to Mr. Napolitano, and super excited for that.
Thank you for all your work on that. That was was very successful. March 9th, school board presentations. That's Monday. How many of you are at this point able to go and be there to help us?
6.
It starts at 6 and they do the recognitions right at the beginning.
Yeah, I can be there.
So
I can be there.
great. Okay. I'm not planning to hobble down to the front, so it'll be good to have somebody else there. That'll be good.
Where is it?
I almost said the Eagle Room. That would be wrong. I almost said the
In the
Eagle
which
Room.
Falcon
So
Room.
you
Falcon.
go into the front door.
You'll see everybody in there
Okay.
once you go in there.
Park.
You park in the lot in front of the big front doors or the cafeteria. That would be great because we have the poster contest presentations. We have the exemplary service awards, and it's Disability Awareness Month, so we'll be there. And it doesn't. Hopefully, we won't be having a big long conversation about Mount Vista. I don't think so either. Seac parent survey. Okay, so I got an email from Mr. Napolitano, and Ms. Gum was included in this conversation. Here's where we're at with the parent survey, because at our last meeting, which Mr. Napolitano had to leave early, and he's out of town on business travel right now in Roanoke, I believe. He raised a couple concerns about reopening it this year. He definitely agrees that we need to look at the Spanish, like what the situation was with Spanish, and I told him, Megan, that your response did not register, so something can happen. But the school division right now is doing some pretty important surveys, including 2 principal searches, and there's just some real concern about putting out another survey on top of that. And until we address some of these issues, we may find that we don't get another big response. Plus, we don't want to create confusion with the people who already responded. And is this it's far enough away now that is this a new survey or whatever? So the conversation I had with him, and I told him, I said, this is a committee decision and it's not my decision. So, you guys can decide something totally different. But my recommendation based on this conversation would be that the subcommittee that meets over the summer to talk about policy work on a plan for the survey, especially thinking about exactly when we want to do it. We don't want to do it too early because then you're not looking at what's happened this year. But if you wait too long, there's so many things going on in the spring. So I think right after Christmas break, we found is not probably the best time. But it's a process, right? We learned a lot about the internal process of doing it. So I don't think it was in any way time wasted. I think we have good questions. And I think probably before Christmas, maybe when we want to do it sometime in the fall or winter, but like February, not like January 9th.
So we're looking at one survey per year as opposed to.
Well, the other question is possibly, and again, this is something, my recommendation is just that we have the subcommittee really
To
spend some
discuss.
time figuring out the best plan, knowing what we know now. One possibility would be to have a survey that's open for a much longer period of time and have one of the other advertise it. So having a QR code, having other access points, I think that's critical that are not, and maybe having posters up in schools with a QR code,
Yeah.
and email that goes out. I think
We
we'll
talked
get a better
about a
response.
possible incentive as well.
Yeah, that can be something the committee talks about. I think there may be just some issues with that because we're not
how would we
flush.
do
We have no
survey?
budget.
Yeah.
Like, let's be candid about this. But we might be able to tack on publicity around other events. Who knows? We might be able to get.
I was gonna say if we timed it around the transition fair at our table, we could have a QR code sitting
Yeah.
on the table too.
Good
which would
point.
probably get a lot of
Good
quick
point.
responses.
We can communicate with PTOs. I mean, there's a lot that we are, send things out through schools. There are a lot of things we can do if we have time to plan ahead. So that would be my recommendation. Unless someone has an objection, I think we'll just plan to do that and record in the minutes that is what we're planning to do. I don't think it's realistic to expect a significantly larger response if we don't do some of these things beforehand. And frankly, we need to write an annual report. We only have one subcommittee and one full committee meeting and then the school year's over. So it's just, the timing is just not kind of working out. But yeah, I think something around the transition fair might be perfect. Does that seem, I mean, Elliot, you kind of had the lead on this. Does that seem like
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
we've gotten some information already from this survey? And I think, shared with Ms. Gum, some of those things for her supervisors. So I think there were some concrete results that helped students just from some information we got. But as far as analyzing the data in any way, we don't have a big enough sample. Marilyn says it's not a big enough sample. You can't draw any conclusions from this. Every time I say, I think I want to draw a conclusion, she says, you cannot do that. Stop. You are not a math person. Do not draw any conclusions.
Yeah, so when was the last one?
Right
Before that?
right after
Oh, this
Christmas
one?
break.
We did it like January. It was like
8th or something.
the end of the second week after the break.
Yeah.
No,
second
no,
week.
I'm talking about.
Oh, it's
when
like
was the
6
last-
before my time.
Right.
I don't
Marilyn
even.
did. No, my-
And we were debating even whether to do it yearly or bi-yearly. Even
I
at
think
that
there's
point,
an
so-
advantage to people knowing it's there
Right, I
and
think
having a place
repetition and
to.
even
Well,
sticking
and
to
using the
it.
same questions
will
and then you can
increase it
compare,
as
you know,
well.
year to
Right.
year.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can honestly pull some of those responses out as input to the SEAC if there's a concern about something
Yeah.
systemic.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So make sure that that's in there because we took action last time. Upcoming SEAC meetings, April, again, date change to the 16th. That meeting will be here. And then we will draft. I will do probably what I've done in the past is I've done some kind of I've taken the last year's report and I've done a very rough draft for people to shoot up. That's why I need your input. So if there's things I can put in there, because we can't write a whole report in an hour and a half. So we'll start with that and then we'll come up with a draft. And ideally we'll have a draft that I can then take and actually, write the changes. So we'll say, we want to say this and this and this. And then at the May meeting, we go through the entire report line by line and make sure that it's exactly what we want to go to the school board. And also, now that we've started having subcommittee meetings over the summer, we'll make a decision, and that will be included in our report, a report to the board about what we plan to do, in between. I think it really helped us to queue stuff up ahead of time. Any questions about that process? So we don't have any more presentations for the year. Everything from here on out is annual report. New business, preparation. Policy recommendation chart updates. I'll reach out to people. Meeting dates in 2026, 27. The question is, would you like to keep doing what we're doing? If so, don't say anything. If you have any input about changing what we are doing, whether it's more subcommittee meetings, meeting less often, there are Seacs who only meet quarterly. They don't get as much done. I mean, it's not rocket science. So just give me your feedback. And then the next piece of that is, let me see. Oh, let me go back. Seac goals and priority issues for 26, 27. I need that as well. And then we come to membership in 2026, 27. You don't have to go on record tonight, but if you could let me know as soon as possible if you are planning to re-up or not re-up, that will help me. Right now we are full. We have 9 members. So if anyone is planning to step down for next year, knowing that with enough time to get out there and recruit would be very helpful. The question of having standing subcommittees, I think, is something that can be discussed by the subcommittee at our next meeting, but be thinking about that, because with 9 members, we can do that in addition to the ad hoc meetings as we need them. But that might help us be a little more streamlined. I think it worked pretty well for us when we've done subcommittee meetings this year. And it lets people focus on things they're more interested in. The thing that we just added to the agenda, the letter to the school board, originally we talked about maybe doing one to the supervisors. I think the best way to do it would be to write a letter to the school board and say in it, we would welcome it if they wanted to share that with the board of supervisors. The main points of the letter, and I'm making this as a proposal, and if it's something you agree with, what I would ask us to do is make a motion to authorize the subcommittee to approve a letter. And that way we don't have to wait until May as a whole committee to approve the letter. But basically, I was just talking to Ms. Gum. The question is, where will we be in the process? Will we be encouraging them to do something or thanking them for already having done it? So it sounds like it's probably going to be a thanking them for having done it, but really talking about why special education is, especially, like you said, the barriers, the fact that we have more students, why turnover especially triggers this whole thing that costs, right? And how impactful the turnover is. So salaries of special ed teachers and related service providers are so important, but also funding for consultant, contract teachers and contract service providers, so that we don't have gaps in service, and really helping them understand. It's so different. Like if you have a gen ed teacher who leaves, you hire a long-term sub and you backfill, but you're okay. You have a speech pathologist who leaves, and the next day you need to be figuring out how you're going to do those service minutes, and it can't be done by the front desk person. It's got to be done by a speech pathologist. So really talking about that need, and just it's hard because it needs to be relatively short, but I think some messaging around that and why that's so important, and that we're grateful for the funds, but they need to understand this is the increase is commensurate with the increase in everything you're dealing with. It's not like we have the same population of students and you're just throwing more money at them. Mm-hmm. So is everybody on board with that? All right. Is there a motion to authorize? I will do a draft for the subcommittee, but then the subcommittee can do whatever it wants to it. Is there a motion to authorize the subcommittee meeting in April to approve a letter to the school board if it chooses to do so?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Mm-hmm.
Opposed? Okay. Yes, ma'am. What I would like to do before our next meeting is get on the phone with you, and you and I talk about all of that messaging so that we're in sync. That wouldn't be very constructive otherwise. And make sure that I'm not missing some, I need a better understanding of the bigger budget. So, member roundtable. I know Marilyn's chomping at the bit here, but Mr. Spar, do you have anything you'd like to share? Molly? Okay. Marilyn, it's your turn.
I just want to share our hot off the press as of yesterday, 2025 annual report. So you guys can be some of the first to see that.
And it's kind of hard to see, but that little cutout on the front, this is our the passport program. So you guys know, Marilyn is the executive director of the ARC, and then I'll put my hat on for like 2 seconds.
Sorry.
I chair the board.
She's a very important
So
person.
I'm the rah-rah person, and she's the do all the work person.
She's how do you write this
But
letter?
this is Erin of Erin's Elderberries, and this is one of our young adults with developmental disabilities. And there's a passport program where young adults, anybody 18 and over. So hopefully we can, and I know you guys have had a conversation about this, but they get a passport to different businesses and organizations in Fauquier County, and they have their own little customized rubber stamps that are their own color, and they stamp their passport when they go to their.
And it's in its infancy. We only have 10 in Fauquier and 10 in Culpeper-ish area. But
if you know somebody who wants a passport,
you know, we're trying to build on that program. So,
all right.
And then I also happened to bring these to the fair, and I didn't hand them all out. This is a flyer for a Mom's Night Out next Thursday. So okay, perfect. If anybody wants to take one of these and share it, awesome. Thank you for that.
Free milkshakes.
Free milkshakes. ABC behavior. Awesome. Thank you.
That's really cool.
So, yeah, it should be. We had a different parent group that met at the Denny's back when there was a Denny's before COVID, and it was really nice. It was a once a month thing. We'd get together, different topics. Usually about a dozen people there. And so we're kind of hoping that we can revive something like that, where you can just kind of get away for a night and learn more.
And depending on who shows up, we may end up with a couple different groups, but we got to.
It's in the side room at Foster's Grill, so at the very least, you can come get a burger and a free milkshake. It right now is a mom's thing, but we've already had the question if dads are welcome. Dads are welcome.
I was getting ready to go there, but
yep,
dads are welcome.
Yep, dads are welcome. What we didn't We've done events. No. Here's why. We've done events where it's an event for parents, and you get the husband and wife who are there with their notebooks, and it's a very different dynamic than just like the parent who's doing most of the special ed stuff. Coming there. Any parent is welcome.
We'd like to start a dad's group too.
Yeah, seriously,
we really would.
Seriously.
We
wanted to send the message that this was like a place that you could just get away and come and share information and
see what
meet
ideas.
some people. And there's no big agenda. So
yeah. The big part of this is to see who comes and to see what the follow-up is, because really, I mean, this is hopefully
the big part of this is
informal.
Right.
So I'll be there, handing out stuff and just talking to try to get a sense of what people are interested in. Yep. Okay. So come and have a milkshake and hang out. But we do have at least one other dad who specifically inquired, so you wouldn't be by yourself, I don't think. There you go. We might have 3 dads there, right? Free milkshake.
That's dangerous.
Mom's night out, right?
You're in risk.
Could be a whole train wreck there. Hopefully not. Great. It sounded like there was some real interest in kind of demographic information. So maybe that's something we could talk about for next year. Maybe having kind of a one-pager that has some, I don't know, maybe some graphs or something that really illustrates what we've talked about tonight, which is things look different in special education than they do in gen ed. And so showing those things, I think that might be really powerful for the board. And that might even be something that if we had it, we could share in our annual report. So,
yeah,
we can talk about that when we talk about money. Yeah, Victoria's over there.
So can I just ask
Come have
real
a
quick?
milkshake.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
Don't about this.
We haven't ended. With the inclusion plan, never mind. I'm just doing.
Go ahead. It's a round table and we're to you.
Well, you said with the inclusion plan that you are going to work toward trying to include children in special ed in general education classes more.
We
So
want to have that conversation at IEP meeting so parents understand
they have that
what
option.
inclusion.
Let's
and
talk.
Talk about your least restrictive
Right.
setting, gen ed versus
Right.
spec. When is it appropriate and what?
Do you foresee that putting more children with special needs in those gen ed classes with this?
That's the goal.
Right. But do you believe that will happen
already-
as well? It is.
The process is already bearing
I was
fruit.
gonna say it
I
already
can
is happening.
yeah.
We've had multiple students move
There's
back
some-
into.
there's
Okay,
some schools
so that is a
that
very-
are
okay,
doing
perfect.
that. A prime example. Schools who have administration who have not turned plans. So the longer you have administration who are knowledgeable of the ways and special ed and those pieces,
Mhm.
then their turnover rates most of the time are not as fast with their teachers.
Mhm.
So if you have a building that has consistency, as
Mhm.
soon as you can get that, you can make other things happen. I'm gonna give a model, and it is very different than what most of our schools look like. Southeastern is a prime example, not their refocus, but their PBS, which is project-based learning. They have had same administrator for years. She understands special ed. She has special ed background. She has an administrator, AP, who also has those pieces. She has staff that doesn't turn over much. It is very inclusive. They have
How-
general ed and special education there. And
Okay.
they are very much embedded in this project-based learning as a group. And it's really cool. And their
How
numbers
how
are
many
really
students in that school?
I believe there's about 80 there, I would say, but that's total, that's
Right.
PBI, or PBL and refocus. But if you're looking at just their project-based learning, it is really cool, the things that they've done. But that comes with, one, they have a little different dynamics, but two, they have had so much consistency and they have an administration who understands the need of sped and what inclusion looks like.
And their entire structure is about meeting the needs of
And
individual
there are some
students.
other schools that have had very consistent administration with a lot of knowledge on special ed. And you will see those schools will have a better grasp on what in the inclusion model looks like. If you had a school who has a lot of turnover with administration, turnover with teachers, we're building a ground zero again. And that's difficult. It's difficult to push change when you're at ground zero. If you get that stability, you're gonna make change faster. You know that as well.
Well,
And finding that balance with your teachers too, right? Like a brand new first year teacher may struggle a little bit more, right? With how to manage all of the things going on in the classroom. But then on the other hand, if you have a 30-year vet who's always done things this one
That's
way,
a lot too.
right? So
that can be
it's
harder.
That
Mhm.
happy medium
Mhm.
of experience, of knowing how to reach all children in your
Mhm.
classroom, right? And then truly, truly being able to include.
And that's when we talk about the web template. You have to understand, it's not just having a special ed staff in that room. We're talking about knowing what specially designed instruction is, knowing what co-teaching models look like and how they're managed. Those are what bring our children into the inclusion classroom with success. So that's what I talk about with the vocabulary, building those groundwork.
Well, and that's the whole idea behind this
Yes,
statewide
thank you.
plan and the law is that the schools will have their own plans. So a school that's further down the road will have different objectives than a school where it's really all about just educating the teachers about what inclusion is.
Okay.
I can't create a plan for each school.
Right.
That's
I
why
can't
that.
create a division plan that will address every school. I can only do a broad generalization. What do I do to get my schools moving? And that's where our.
And then resource them with training and whatever else they need.
well, I think it's important too that the programs stay still as well. Because if the programs move, then you have trouble with the personnel moving, which is the problem that you just brought up. So if you can keep the program stationary.
How close are we? Do you know what next year's going to look like yet? How close is it? The same?
Remember last year I moved a whole lot because I wanted them to be in their school for the entire time. I didn't want a K2 somewhere and a 3-5 somewhere else. So we moved a lot last year. There was
Okay.
only one I did not move. I'm looking to move that. And then at the elementary, it's the elementary program we'll talk about. On the elementary, if you require a program and go into a program in kindergarten, if you require your entire elementary, you won't leave that school. I want it to be a community, and I want them not, they're the kids who don't do well transitioning, why
Right.
transition, right?
Exactly.
So I wanted K-5. I did that as best I could
Right.
last year. I had to pull it up on one. There's reasons that we can talk about later, but you understand, but I want them to be inclusive in that school their entire time, just like the general population. So it was a lot of work last spring to try to make that happen. I'm sure transportation just loved me, but it's where it needs to be. I've got
So-
one more to move, and I'm adding a program, but I'm adding that program to a school where the administration understands it. And so that won't be an isolated program. They will be with others to make it a community. And it's based on need.
We talked about, this was one of those Seac recommendations last year. We talked about what do you do when a kid was put in the self-contained classroom, but now needs to be included in gen ed. And one of the recommendations was to have sort of an automatic, if you are a kid in a self-contained classroom and you are, because presumably it's gradual, like we're 60% of the time, we're 70% of the time, and okay, now we're not on the alternate assessment or whatever, and now you're in gen ed, and to make sure that those kids have a place in that school to stay if they want to, with any siblings that also have a waiver.
And that's not a good conversation. That's that LRE piece of it.
Well, what I'm saying is, do we automatically send them back to their base school? So same,
If you were looking at LRE, that answer would be yes.
Yes, because it's their neighbor.
because their neighbor, okay.
But it depends on the
Well, no,
issue,
right. But then the question is, how much involvement does the parent have? Because that was,
Well, there are ways.
there's
that it
lots
can be
of
requested
questions.
to do
Right.
that, to process it.
And that was one of the
That's
school,
why I was trying to spread
right. I understand.
these programs in various places, not all in town, not all up north.
Right.
So they're close
Spread
enough
so
that,
at least they're close to their base, and then if they're not in their base, they will go to their base middle
school.
with their group of peers
got it.
and not be up here, but yet their peers are gonna be down here.
Gotcha.
I tried to funnel it so that it made some logistical and just common sense. And we got them all in.
Okay. So can we, before we do the annual report, can we get the list? We've had one in the past, but it sounds like it's been updated, of where the program classrooms are.
It will be one, yes, I'll share what they are. There's-
And then
I
note the
haven't
one.
moved one, I have to have that conversation, but the projections to move one.
Okay.
And then we're going to add one, everything else will stay exactly where it is.
Okay.
Transportation will love one this year. So
All right.
that was a big goal. I just wanted those to be really. So
Could stay. And you were going to talk about middle and high school real quick? Okay. We're past time. So is there anything else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion. Sorry.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you much. Okay. I will get membership applications out to anybody who says they're coming